Welcome to part 2 of this spontaneous ROCD series. We are diving into ROCDs, and today we are diving into 10 situations that can trigger you. I am Pauline, and I am so happy you are here because struggling with relationship OCD can really impact your day, your life, your relationship, your happiness, your health, your mental health, just pretty much every area of your life. And what I remember from my ROCD days, I struggled with it for about 6 years, um, is that life could feel like a minefield, an absolute minefield. And those were all triggers. Now I know that. But it was like I could go through my day and then somebody would say something or I would see something and I would just obsess for days, have these thoughts that just wouldn't stop and felt like I had to analyze everything and felt so much fear. And I would just think and try to solve that problem for hours and hours and days. So let's go through the minefield together a little bit because I think if I would have had a list like this back then, that these are just common triggers for ROCD that actually could have helped me a lot. So I really hope that this is valuable for you too and that you recognize that, oh wait, this is just ROCD, and that doesn't mean that all of this is true or I really have to solve anything or I have to take this so seriously. So one of the big things that can trigger you are romantic movies or songs. There are so many movies and so many songs that have lines in them or verses in them that can trigger you so much. Like you have to have this, otherwise, your relationship just isn't worthy of having, or your partner isn't the one. So I stopped watching romantic movies for a while I was healing from ROCD. I just felt like it wasn't worth getting triggered so often and having to work through those triggers while not really knowing how to do that back then. Um, and spending days and days just, ruminating and analyzing whether my relationship was up to par with that movie. And now I know movies are just made for entertainment and definitely not for education purposes. I think it's getting a little bit better. It's getting a little bit more realistic now, but especially 10 to 20 years ago, the movies that came out then, whew, if I see a movie like that now, I think, oh gosh, it's such a shallow and superficial view of love that can actually create a quite a toxic image of what a relationship should be. Um, but yeah, it's just romantic movies or songs are definitely something that can trigger you, and it's your choice, um, whether you want to listen to them or not. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but I really felt it helped to kind of not not see them for a while. Now I can watch them and listen to songs no problem at all. I'm not triggered at all anymore. Um, but while I was healing, I kind of just pushed pause on that for a while. Another situation is finding someone else attractive. I remember that, first of all, I was so afraid that I would find somebody else attractive or that I would fall in love with somebody else. And then my wise aunt said, well, what if that happens? Being in love is a lovely feeling. Why can't you just allow that feeling to be there? It will pass too. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a possibility. That's so interesting. I thought I had to control my feelings and manage my feelings and not feel this and make sure I didn't feel this, because otherwise it would mean that I had to break up or nah, blah 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 blah. This is what ROCD does. You just go on a tangent in your head. Um, but when I did find somebody else attractive, uh, oh gosh, it was hell. Like I was afraid to look at other men, and when I was struggling with HOCD, so I was afraid that I was attracted to girls. I was afraid to look at girls and uh, feel anything at all around other people. That is not a very conducive way of working around this or working with this. Um, so the way my aunt explained is how I see it now. And also, I interviewed 100 couples happily married for over 40 years, and so many of the couples said, "Oh yes, of course I find other people attractive." That's fine. It's like there's a lot of attractive people on the planet. But just because you find somebody attractive doesn't mean that you want to marry them, have their babies, and build a life together. That's like a whole different story. So just allowing yourself to be human and find other people attractive, that is the most healthy way to deal with it. And then your actions are something else. I mean, if you seek things out and you start texting people that you find attractive, that's action. That's something, that's putting action behind it. But just finding someone else attractive, that's not something you can really help. It's just you can't manage or control your feelings, so that will happen, and that's okay, because everybody has that. Even the happiest couples have that. And it doesn't say anything about your relationship or how much you love your partner. Another situation is talking about relationship with somebody else. I mean, just conversations about relationships. Oh, I can remember vividly several conversations where people said, "Oh, and when he did this, I knew he was the one," and la la la. And I thought, how did I know that he was the one? How do I know? Has he ever done anything that is remotely like this? And so I would just kind of check completely, constantly, anything that I heard, whether I had that too. So yeah, talking about a relationship, I actually stopped doing that for a while too. I just didn't want to talk about relationships as I was healing and just creating an image of relationships that felt right for me, that felt like truth for me, based on the experience of people who had been happily married for so long. I mean, you can talk to friends who are your age, and if you're 25, they don't have 40 years of marriage experience that they build on, that they have their knowledge of. So the fact that they say, well, yeah, but you have to be in love in the beginning of the relationship. Well, that is their truth. That is their belief in that moment. It doesn't mean that it is truth. And I would much rather base my image of love on those who have come where I want to be, which is have a long and happy marriage, than base all my fears on what my peers say, who have just as little experience as I have and who are just as influenced by Hollywood movies as I am. So yeah, I stopped talking about relationships with peers, even with people somewhat older than me, and I was very, very deliberate in who I would take advice from or who I would talk to relationships about. If they didn't have a happy long marriage or relationship, I didn't talk about relationships with them for a while. Now I talk about relationships with everybody all the time because this is what I do. But I'm not triggered anymore. So in the time that I was triggered, I kind of protected myself and was very deliberate about who I would talk to about relationships. Then another situation that can trigger you is being in social settings together and your partner doing something or saying something, or just being, and you feeling like they have to be perfect, they have to be funny, they have to be accepted. You were just very focused on them, where you were probably also self-conscious about yourself, but you have found maybe a way to be perfect, to be in a way that you think will be accepted by the rest of the world. And then your partner comes and does something else, and that is not part of the script that you adapted yourself to and trained yourself for, and you're like, what are you doing? And that can really trigger you and think, oh, everybody thinks he's dumb, or she's not good enough, or he's not funny, or she's not kind enough, or they, just whatever your fear brain makes of it. Just being in social settings together can be a trigger if you have this tendency to want them to be perfect and are really afraid that they are going to be rejected. Then also, having happy or content moments together can actually be triggering, which may come as a surprise, but it can be hard when everything is just going well and you have a fear brain that is completely wired for solving problems, preventing things from happening, and always seeing danger everywhere and being hyper vigilant. If you were just being happy and content sitting on the couch together and you're like, oh, life is actually quite good, everything is going well, your fear brain is like, then when is the other shoe going to drop? When is something really bad going to happen? You have to pay attention. You have to be aware. And so all of a sudden, you find something to worry about, you find something to obsess over, because you are not allowed to just enjoy life, because then you won't see bad things happening. You always have to be alert and on. So having happy and content moments can actually be triggering with ROCD. Then another situation is seeing pictures together of you two. I have heard so many stories. I didn't have this specific thing too much. Had a lot of other things, but I get this so much. So I have a Dutch program which is pretty much completely focused on relationship ROCD and doubts. And the number of times that I have gotten questions, emails, WhatsApp messages from people saying, I have this picture together and I think we don't look right together, and I think he looks too masculine or too feminine, or she looks too masculine or too feminine, and it looks like we're not together, it looks like we're brother and sister, it looks like whatever. I've heard so many things. Your fear brain is just so creative in these things. And then they kind of send the picture asking if it's true. Like, do we look weird together or do we look good together? And so that's asking confirmation, which is feeding into the OCD. So that's a very good teaching moment. But seeing a picture of you two together can actually be pretty triggering. Seeing a picture of your partner can be very triggering. I did have that. If there was a picture where I thought he wasn't just really good looking, I would panic. I could panic. Yeah. So just seeing pictures can really be triggering. Then having sex, it can be a trigger in and of itself, a situation where you're triggered, because, oh gosh, there are so many reasons. I mean, sex is just so intimate. There's so much connection possible there. There's so much shame and guilt in society around sex. So your own beliefs around sex, your body, pleasure, all of that ties into intimacy and sex, and all of that can be triggering. If you've had experience with sexual abuse, that is extremely triggering. So yeah, having sex, it's super logical that that's triggering. And it's so interesting that we have this image that sex in the beginning of the relationship should be amazing and just good, while I think about 70 or 80% of people really have to get to know each other. Did you know that the best sex happens after you're about 60 or 70? Because then you've known each other for so long, you know each other's bodies so well, you know your own body really well. So no, you don't have to have amazing sex right now. You're on a journey of figuring yourself out, figuring out what you like, what you don't like, and being on a journey together. Even apart from all of the triggers that having sex and intimacy can have. Then another situation is reading or hearing about other relationships. Whenever I would read or hear about other relationships, about people getting married, for instance, or being happy, or they always do this, or he did that, and I would get, well, not really jealous, I would get scared that my relationship wasn't good enough. The same with another situation, hearing about breakups or divorce, that could really trigger me into just being upset for about 2 weeks. And I remember Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson getting married, and I remember them talking about each other like, oh, I knew it immediately that she was the one, and I knew that he was the one. And I remember them talking about this. This means I'm pretty old. And I thought, oh, but that is how it's supposed to be, and I didn't have that. I didn't know that immediately, and so my relationship isn't right. And then they got divorced pretty quickly. And that made me realize that celebrities, other people's relationships, it means nothing, because they can say, oh, I know he or she is the one, and they can actually believe that in that moment, and then it doesn't work out for whatever reason in the end too. So I hung up so much in comparing other people comparing my relationship to other people's relationships, sometimes celebrities, sometimes people I knew. And then the more breakups and divorces I came across, the more I thought, well, this doesn't make sense. Why did I invest so much in analyzing whether I thought Aryan was the one immediately, and now they're divorced after 2 years? So why was that so important? Maybe I should stop this. And I did. I did take. I just stopped taking that so seriously. You never know what another relationship is like, what what is going on in their relationship or in their own, with their own trauma. Um, and therefore, stories about breakups and divorce started to trigger me less and less, because I thought, you never know what happens or what happened or what they are struggling with, and that's their thing, that's their privacy. Um, there's no need for me to know. All I need is to focus on my own relationship and invest in my relationship. Then another situation is your partner saying something you don't find funny. This can really trigger the obsession about uh, humor and compatibility. So your partner not being funny can, yeah, it can trigger so much. But that's definitely a situation, even if you're just with the two of you, apart from social situations. Yeah, can be triggering for sure. And then the last one is reading about twin flames and destiny. Oh, please don't get me started on twin flames and all that surrounding that. I don't want to judge it. I'm not judging it. It's just that I see so much that could be potentially triggering around that and can be toxic around that. Um, that there's a lot that I actually have to say, I could say about that. Maybe I should make a whole video on that. If you're interested, let me know in the comments below. But I have had so many questions in my Dutch program around twin flames and what I thought of that and astrology and all of that. And I understand it because I used to seek answers in that too. It kind of feeds into the certainty aspect that you are so looking for when you are struggling with relationship OC. So truly, I'm not judging. I totally understand where it's coming from, but my frustration with it comes from the people who talk about the whole twin flames and destiny thing, and don't take into account the people that are really scared and are looking for that certainty. So yeah, that can definitely also be triggering. Let me know if you want me to talk about that, because I will. I will. So these were actually 11 situations, if you count it with me, that can trigger you. There are so many more. I mean, it's an endless list. It could be as simple as when they call you and you don't feel elated that they call you. That can trigger you. I mean, it can be anything. So if you want to add any situations, please do. That is completely fine. We can learn from each other and see that this is just our fear brain, and you're not the only one that has that and is dealing with this. So that was 10 situations that can trigger you when you are struggling with ROCD. I really hope this was helpful. Please let me know in the comments below. As always, I am so happy you were here, and I will see you in the next one.
Healed and Happy is a tailor-made online program where me and my team personally guide you through healing the roots of a fearful avoidant attachment style.